Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Coffey, President of the Louisville Forum. Welcome to our June 2024 program. The Louisville Forum programs typically meet at noon on the second Wednesday of each month here at Vincenzo's Restaurant downtown. All are welcome. Founded in 1984, 40 years ago, the Louisville Forum is a nonpartisan public issues group. We host debates and discussions of contemporary and sometimes controversial public policy issues that affect the greater Louisville community. For more information on the Louisville Forum, our events, to join or to make a reservation, please visit louisvilleforum.org. And I also want to say we're having a luncheon today on the downtown revitalization of Louisville. We are here today again at Vincenzo's Restaurant, which in January of 2025 will celebrate its 50th anniversary of revitalizing downtown.
See, when I came to this beautiful city, I was privileged to be able to serve you folks. And I bought Jack Cotchie's house. He gave me a great deal. 11203 Darlington Place, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, thank you. God bless you all. Thank you for allowing me and my family to make a great living here. It's been a great privilege to serve you. You know, and the good people, that's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's program is, as I mentioned, is downtown revitalization. As I said before, the Louisville Forum mission is to bring speakers to talk about contemporary issues that impact the greater Louisville community. There is no topic since COVID that our members consistently want addressed more than our downtown. It is constantly at the forefront of the Louisville Forum's members' concerns. At the end of the legislative session this year, the Kentucky General Assembly passed a bill which will bring $100 million to revitalize downtown Louisville. Such projects that it will go to include is the Belvedere. If you walk out here, just turn left, you go across the street, that's the Belvedere. Also, the Community Care Campus, vacant lot revitalization, Lou Med Campus, Louisville Gardens, and Butchertown Sports District. There will be many questions about these funds that cannot be answered today, and I strongly suspect that this will not be the last program we will have this year on the subject. I'm very excited to introduce the speakers we have today. A Republican leader from the House, a Democratic leader from the Senate, and Louisville's leader on the mission to improve downtown. Our first speaker sitting to my left is Jason Nemes. Jason is the Kentucky House of Representatives Majority Whip. He represents District 33 and has since January 2017. He went to Manual High School where he played both baseball and football. He's a graduate of Western Kentucky University and got his law degree from the University of Louisville. Sitting next to Jason is David Yates. David is the Kentucky Senate Minority Whip. He represents District 37 and has since January 2021. Prior to that, David was a member of the Louisville Metro Council from 2010 to 2020, where he served 2 terms as president. He's a graduate of the University of Louisville and got his law degree from Northern Kentucky University. It is funny, when I was putting together Jason and David's biographies, I see that Jason is the proud father of 3 boys, while David is the proud father of 2 girls. So we truly have a nonpartisan group up here today.
And he makes sure my boys don't get near his girls. There's some truth to that.
Finally, all the way to my right, Rebecca Fleishaker. Rebecca's commitment to strengthening Louisville's downtown is unrivaled. She's the executive director of the Louisville Downtown Partnership, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to improve Louisville's downtown by promoting the redevelopment, vitality, and economic growth of the Central Business District and surrounding areas through creating a safe, clean, and enjoyable downtown, enjoyable environment. Prior to her position with the Louisville Downtown Partnership, Rebecca had an extensive career working for the city, specifically in economic development. including being the former director of Louisville's Department of Economic Development. Rebecca is a graduate of Miami University and got her Master of Public Administration from the University of Kentucky. So luckily, there's one non-lawyer up here today.
I tried. I did try.
Well, please welcome all three of our speakers this morning. Please, Jason.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to Mr. Vincenzo and this great restaurant here for hosting Louisville Forum. What a great organization. It's been for many years and will continue to be, I think. And the panel, Rebecca, she comes to Frankfort and advocates for Louisville and does a very good job. I'm happy that we got a significant number of dollars that are coming downtown. And David Yates and I, I'm a South End boy. I represent Middletown area now. David's a South End guy. We've always been very proud of the Yates family, and especially this fellow right here. He represents my mother, so he better be good. But she's got a great yard sign location. It's great to be on this panel with these great folks. So how do we revitalize Louisville? Well, we're trying. I think we've got a lot going for us. This is the best town in the country, in my view. This is our town. This is my town. I grew up in the South End. I live in the East End, and I love Louisville, as I think everybody here does, or they wouldn't be here. The most important thing that we have to do, I think, to revitalize Louisville is to have security and the perception of security. And I think we're moving toward those goals. We've increased our recruits at the LMPD. I think we're paying them, I think it was 8% more in the most recent contract, which was approved by the council and negotiated by the mayor. So I think we're on the right track. We still have a long way to go to get our LMPD force back where it needs to be to keep us all safe. But the most important thing, obviously, is security. Nothing matters. You can put $100 billion in downtown Louisville. If people aren't safe and if they don't think they're safe when they're down here, then it's not going to matter. People in my neck of the woods, when they talk about coming downtown, a lot of them are just saying, I'm not going. And so we want them to say, I want to go. I want to go to the Center for the Arts. I want to go to Vincenzo's. I want to come downtown just to hang out. Hopefully with the revitalization of Belvedere and Waterfront Park and all kinds of things, we need the perception of security. The second thing, we have to have the right leadership, and I think we do. Look, I'm a Republican. I'm a rock-ribbed Republican. I make no apologies for that at all. So I'm not in the business of praising a Democrat mayor, but I will say that this mayor is a guy who sees a problem, fix a problem. He's I think doing the right thing. He's putting the time in. He went to Manchester last week to go see the Senate president. We jokingly call the Senate president the senator from Jefferson 39. There's 38 senators. He thinks he's one of us, and so we're going to let him continue to believe that, and he's doing really good things for us. But this mayor is out, and he's putting the time in, and he's doing what needs to be done. And so I think we have the proper leadership that we need. And the third thing is we have to have Frankfort understanding the role of Louisville. And the role of Louisville is we are the engine. We don't move forward as a state unless Louisville thrives. And Louisville doesn't move forward as a county, as Jefferson County, unless downtown business district thrives. And so what have we done? We put our money where our mouth is. We didn't just say, let's try to do a little bit. We put our money where our mouth is. When the legislators got together this year, and we fought like heck to get as many dollars as we could to Louisville. And by the way, the number that's coming to Louisville is $1.17 billion with the road plan, with the $100 billion that we discussed, and with a lot of other things like $30 million to, my mind is blank right now, the Home of the Innocents and a bunch of different things. So it's $1.17 billion. But when we had a large chunk of money to put in there, it would have been easy, and it would have been the politically best thing to do if David would have said, well, I'm going to put some in my district. And I would have said, well, I'm going to put some in my district. And everybody would put some in their district. We came together and we said, we're not going to do that. I know there are needs in Middletown. There are needs in Fern Creek. There are needs in Okolona. We try to address those, especially with the road plan. But we said, let's put it in downtown business district. This is where it is. We're on our knees right now. Most cities are. And we have to get back. We have to stand up. And the way to do that is pump a bunch of money into downtown business district. And that's what we've done. And so we put a lot of controls on that because we don't want just unfettered spending and so forth. But we've put our money where our mouth is. We want Louisville to rise back up. Now, next time, I've already told the mayor this, the understanding is at least 50% of the dollars are going outside the Waterson, where 2/3 of our population live and 72% of our taxes are paid, by the way. But we're going to, right now we put it in downtown, and we've got to get it back up. One thing that we didn't talk about was the conversion of buildings to residential areas is another thing that can be used with that money. Because we need more density downtown. With more density, more feet, more people eating at Vincenzo's and other places. And so it'll start become a happening place again, which is what we're trying to do. So security, the right leadership, and then Frankfort knowing its role. But we have to know their role too. We're in this thing together. The reason that we have good energy rates is because we've got coal miners, and we've had them for 100 years. And so we're in this thing with Harlan County, with Muhlenberg County, and all the others. It's not just Louisville. But I think Frankfort is understanding Louisville's unique role. And if we're going to do anything in Kentucky, it starts right here in the downtown business district.
David, please.
Well, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate being here. I see a lot of familiar faces, people I know in the room. I served on the Metro Council for 10 years. And in that 10 years, we constantly looked and said, how can we make Louisville better? Eventually, I always put term limits on myself, and I had reached that term limit, and I said, okay, I'm done. And I got the calls saying, would you join us in Frankfort? And the reason I said yes is because I believe that the only way that we could really improve what we do in Louisville is to expand the pie. We needed additional revenue and funds. So there's a lot of reasons I went down to Frankfort, but that was one of them. It was one of them because we constantly ran in. When I was president of the council, we'd look and we saw, why were we falling behind our other cities, our competitive cities? Why have we done that generation after generation, really, from the 70s? And so I went in with the goal of making sure we brought funding. Coming out of COVID, Louisville, you look, it's all a huge difference in our downtown area, like a lot of cities. One of the difference between our city, though, is that we have had a huge loss in working age people. So what we know by studying and doing best practices throughout the country, and I know we've been on some trips together, and we look and say, how can we emulate what's best? So you got to have policies that attract and keep your young, your best, your brightest, those who are going to reinvest. They're going to open corporations, they're going to open companies, they're going to hire, they're going to raise the quality of life all through there, and they're going to be paying taxes. And so you want that. So we thought, how can we do that? Well, we know that part of that is going to be a reinvestment in the overall community, but we know that downtown Louisville is really the state's downtown. If you really think about it, it is the economic engine of Louisville. Louisville is the economic engine of the state of Kentucky. In the event that we lose that revenue sources here, everybody fails. It was something about close to 54% of the revenue is from Louisville, and the majority of that revenue, we could debate over where that comes from, but I think it's from that core. And I think if we don't have a strong, vibrant downtown, then it's hard for us to do that traction. So talking and not reinventing the wheel, mostly what I like to do is listen. I like to surround myself, and I look in this room, a lot of experts that have bent my ear, we talk about it and say, what works? And we met with the mayor, heck, before I even got sworn in, really, and we had talked, about what the goals were. And then when Craig Greenberg came in, and we talked about what we can do is to continue to do that. And Mayor Greenberg had put together what I thought was a great strategic plan. So none of the Belvedere, the community campus, the Louisville Med, the Louisville Gardens, which we've been trying to do for years and years.
It'll get done.
Yeah, it's going to get done. The downtown revitalization, Butchertown Sports Sticker, all those things, they're not in a vacuum. They all work together in consensus to be able to draw that. Because you think about the Belvedere, well, one of the major things about the Belvedere is not only to bring in the town attraction and the tourism and stuff, but we look at the Humana Towers that we got to have to be able to fill. And so I liked that it wasn't what I thought was important or what Jason thought was important, just with Rebecca, but strategically what would the best experts around us said, hey, this will be the best return on your dollars. So you see a lot of tough things happen in Frankfort. In this particular incident, and I'm not talking about the whole budget, because there's a lot of things in the budget I thought we missed the ball on and we could have done, but as it invested in downtown, I thought we set aside the partisan politics, we set aside the political games, we sat down and said, how do we secure funding that can make Louisville grow? And by doing that, we had to reach out to our partners all throughout Kentucky, right? I mean, and work that out, and they understood, and they sat down because we were to deliver a message that we all grow together. And I think that has got to be the consensus, because we don't want Washington politics in Frankfort. You guys don't want that because you want us to deliver. And so I think working in conjunction with the mayor and then in leadership on both sides of the aisle and in the House and the Senate, I'm really proud of this investment. and I'm excited about some of the questions and stuff we're going to be answering about how it's going to work, how it's going to fruition. But the Metro Council and the mayor's office, that's where it goes down. It's local control. We get that money down here. It's going to be how it's going to be spent. And I'm excited and I believe in that. And hopefully we'll continue to support it.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me here and this discussion. I could talk about downtown for days on end. I came onto this job 2 years ago, which was a strange time to head up an organization dedicated to downtown since we were really hurting. But it's been really great, as you've heard, to have such support and belief in downtown from our local and state legislators. It's been really eye-opening for me that there is conversation to be had about what needs to happen collectively, not only publicly, but also from the private sector, and how we work together to do that. We just unveiled our downtown strategy. Every 10 years, we put out a long-term vision of what we want downtown to look and feel like. And that is really important because it got a year worth of public input and feedback from you guys, from stakeholders, from people out in the community, what's important to them. And so we're going to be living by that strategy for the next 10 years. We're working on a strategic plan for that implementation right now. But what really is a nice partnership is that the 6 projects underneath that $100 million that came from the state not only echo that, but will champion what you all have said in that process, what you want to see in your downtown. We need more walkable streets. We need much stronger districts and anchors that hold together downtown. Things that bring people downtown, things that activate and get people curious and having fun. And like you come downtown for one thing, but you can go do another thing and make an entire day, if not a whole weekend out of it. And so I'm really excited. We don't have a lot of detail, by the way, yet on how that $100 million is going to be spent. Crossing our fingers, we hear about that soon. But we are excited to be able to put that into motion. It's super important that $100 million, what that economic impact will be, because development begets development. So when the public sector puts in that kind of money to that degree, other things are going to follow. So I think that's the really exciting thing. You've already heard from both Senator Yates and Representative Nemes how important downtown is to the region. It's what we talk about all the time, and why I think I have this job. Our organization was created in the early 90s to put our eyes and ears on downtown solely. I mean, there is an economic development department for the city and for the state, but downtown is as important, and how we actually put that attention, love, beautification, advocacy, and economic development into downtown. And I think that's coming to fruition again and again. And, after COVID, really 4 years after COVID, we're still in need of a big boost, and this will get us a long way there. So I want to thank both of you for your involvement in the budget as well. Thank you.
Thanks all of our speakers this morning for their opening remarks. And Lourdes, do you have a question, please?
Yes. What are some areas other states have, waterfront, Main Street areas that you are looking for as models?
Oh, that's a great question. They both looked at me. There are several cities that have waterfronts. Pittsburgh is the number one that pops to my mind, just because I go to Cincinnati often, but I have been to Pittsburgh. They own both sides of the river, which makes a huge difference. So super jealous about that. But they also have like 100 bridges that cross their river. They're all painted the same color, by the way. Like they know how to brand their city. Everything is black and yellow if you go to Pittsburgh. Their sports teams too. Cincinnati is another one. Both of those have major sports teams. Cleveland would be another one who's actually coming to look at us. They made a field trip a year ago with their, I think it was their chamber that came, and I'm also talking to their downtown development people about their waterfront. They have not developed their waterfront at all, and we've done such a good job over the last 30 years that they want to emulate that. I'd say those are the first 3 that popped to my mind.
And just recently working with the mayor right there at Newport, has been watching just some of how they've been able to build locally and using some of the art and inexpensive models and things. I think these are easy fixes, and I know that it's nice to see Rebecca already championing that stuff now.
Yeah, we just need a major league sports team.
That's good.
No. Tom, please.
And that plays into this question. A member had a question. What about investing or trying to attract a WNBA team? Is there any thought about that?
Well, on the Metro Council, that was one early on. We met and the late Jim King, really had sat down and talked and looked at numbers. And we had a lot of tough time just dealing with the media market and how that would play. And then making sure that there would be the investment there from the corporations willing to invest into the teams. And then we looked at possible even, back we were looking at D-League teams, talking about the Garden and different things like that. So that's always got to be, professional teams have got to be something that we're talking about, we're looking to draw. But there's a lot of factors that go into play outside of government.
I will add that I know that the mayor had said he wants Louisville to be the capital of women's sports, and the WNBA was something he mentioned. We have racing already, which is a major league team, and I think that's a really good start. But we should go after more. We've got the infrastructure and the building for them.
What is preventing an anchor store destination? There's a combination of 3 different questions. Someone asked about a Target or grocery, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, IKEA, some big anchor store destination retail space. What is preventing that from happening downtown? And are you doing anything in order to get one?
Yes. So the biggest challenge right now is that we don't have the people and the dollars to support those retail. And retail, as you know, follows rooftops. Grocery stores is probably the thing I'm asked about the most in downtown. And it's easy to say we should get one because that's what's going to bring residents to downtown, but you have to have the residents to support it. Their profit margin is very slim. I spent 1.5 years of my life in economic development researching grocery stores, not just in downtown, but anywhere. And it's just a very difficult industry. It's a very difficult balance of labor and rent and sales. And you'll see the major retailers have grown their footprint because they're selling non-grocery items. That's where they make their money. So the way that we are working toward this, because it is very important, we need to have fresh food and groceries. I'm calling them markets, just a little manage expectation, not like 60,000 square feet, but probably like 10 to 12,000 square feet. We need to build up our residential base. We are working on incentives and some financial tools that will help developers. We've got great buildings that could be converted. That's one of the 6 project items in the $100 million. And you got to build amenities that people want. So parks, more walkable, pedestrian-friendly streetscapes. And the grocery is going to be one of the last things to come unless there is some large public subsidy, which isn't to say that can't happen, but we need more residents living here first. That's just going to have to be the way that goes. The only other way it could happen is in a mixed-use development that is for residents, that a grocery or market is part of that development. That's a captive audience. You're going to have people that shop at that place. And then you would have people that would move in closer, if not in that same building, close by, to be able to take advantage of that. And that's what we're trying to work on. The mayor did put out for RFP 3 city-owned properties in downtown. I fully expect at least one of them to have some sort of market in them.
And a lot of the questions are going to be directed at the kind of local control of Metro Council. So, but because I did serve a decade on there, I'll kind of pop in and I see Deputy Mayor David James here, and I know that we spent, I'm probably hundreds of hours work on the grocery store issue. And actually during that period losing grocery stores and out there trying to, and so there has to be some kind of combination because we know the market in of itself is not supported. But with the Metro Council, through some of the incentives, they can require, like we see some of these new complexes come into place, they can say, we'll give you these incentives, however, you are to provide X, Y, and Z, and grocery store could be some of those things. There's also, when we looked at best practices, there's also some really neat models that have been set up in different places where groceries can be delivered. So where there's food deserts, they can be delivered in there, and there's these like storage containers that are refrigerated and people can pick them up. And so with technology, there are other things, but I think as far as just a natural amenity, if we're able to draw people downtown, if we're able to put people into the buildings, if we're able to increase the population down here, the market will have a grocery store.
Yeah, good point.
Just real quick, how was in Frankfort, how did the rest of your colleagues in the House and in the Senate get behind this legislation?
Well, I'll give you two answers. And they're both true. Number one is, when you go outside this county, people see Louisville as their town. They see Louisville kids as their kids. They want a strong Louisville. They want a strong Lexington. They want a strong Louisville. They come here. They send their kids here for college a lot. They come here to shop, and they want Louisville to thrive. That's the gospel truth. And so this us versus them. Look, we see the world differently in some ways. Some people are more conservative than others, maybe. Some people have a more rural mindset. But they want their town to be strong, and this is their town. It's our town, no doubt, but it's their town too. And so I don't think it's that difficult. But the second thing is just power politics. I'm in leadership. Julie Rocky Adams is not here, but she's the most important person in Louisville for Frankfort's purposes, and there's not a close second. I try to do what I can do in the House, and the rest of the House members do. But Julie Rocky Adams is the most important player we've got. And if you want our support, then you better be supporting us. If you've got a hospital that's getting ready to close down in Greenup County, I'll be the first one there fighting for you. But that means when something goes on in Louisville, we want you right by our side as well. And so it's about power politics and relationship building, but it's also about, I think, fundamentally, they want their town to be Nashville, better than Indianapolis, better than St. Louis. And this is our town, all of our town. And so I think it wasn't that difficult to get them on board.
I think sometimes it feels difficult, depending on what the issue is. And, there used to be, my grandfather years ago, he served in the House for 22 years. And he said that, of course, he had friends that would kind of tease back and forth. And they say that their goal was to get bacon back home to their place and keep that bacon from going to Louisville. And that was kind of everybody talked about. I think that in years that is less and less because people are more mobile. They're coming and going and people are on to school. I think ultimately that I would agree that a lot of us have that goal that people throughout Kentucky want Louisville to do well because we're a poor state. If Louisville doesn't do well, then other things aren't funded. It's the economic engine of the state. A lot of times we have a different idea of how to reach that goal. And that's where it kind of becomes. My success in politics, especially being part of a minority in there, it's all been about relationships. When I first came in, I realized that Mayor Gray with transportation was able to, with paving, and that was important to a lot of people. So I constantly work with that and try to help other senators because I want this state to do well. I want mobility. I think it's good for our business industry and everything else. So we build those relationships because I think when you trust someone individually, you're more apt to listen to their political points and positions. And so I think that's really, really important, especially me operating now, always coming from being a super majority to being a super minority. With Louisville, we didn't have a choice, really, I think, and that's the way I put it. I said, if you do not stabilize Louisville's downtown economy, we're going to lose significant funding. It's going to get worse, and that we're not going to be able to compete with our neighboring states. And ultimately, you won't be able to do what you need to do in your district. And I think that we got a lot of educated people who understand basic economics, and I think that was a huge incentive to be able to get this done. With that being, Jason's right about it was hard because I had a whole lot of projects that I wanted in other parts of my district in White North, but that didn't sell so well to the legislators outside of Louisville. And so what happens, though, I know, is when they have all this additional money in the budget, the Metro Council goes through and they look at the budget and they make sure their districts, because the normal budget doesn't have to pay for this, so there it frees up funds to do other projects. And that's why I'm a strong proponent of local control and letting the council and the mayor do what they need to do.
But we do need, and for the council persons watching, we do need the city money to support the things that the state funded. So if I'm going back, because we're going to have this kind of money, so here's where it came from. So we have our budget that we pay for, which is a continuous budget. Well, most of the money, the $100 million, all of it, and most of the additional money came from, that wasn't in the road plan. It came from one-time dollars from our rainy day fund. And so that's just a colloquial name for it, contingency reserve trust account, whatever, the big long name, budget reserve trust account. And so we had a lot of dollars in there because we've got some more federal dollars and our economy's growing. And so we had that money. Those are one-time dollars. We're going to have those, we anticipate, we're going to have those again next year or the next year. And so this is the message to the council persons listening. Don't not fund the Belvedere and other things because you think the state's got it. That's not going to do the trick. Because when we go back in 2 years and say, hey, look what we did 2 years ago, we need some more, the questions are going to be, did Louisville ante up with us? Number one, and number two, show me your deliverable. So don't go somewhere else. You better put some of that money into early education, which is the mayor's put forth, and Julie Rocky Adams got done, and the Belvedere and things of that nature. So don't just state's got it. We'll put money elsewhere. Don't do that. That'll help hurt our interests.
Yeah, that's not good.
This is for all the panelists. What is the current and planned impact of hotels and conventions on the downtown area?
Amazing. I don't know if you're asking for a dollar impact, but Louisville Tourism expects to get back up to that year. We keep comparing ourselves to 2019 next year. But with the addition of hotels, we are able to attract more and bigger conventions, which is why it's always a surprise that a new hotel's being built and someone's like, oh my gosh, don't we have enough? But the fact is, for conventions, we don't. And we need not more smaller hotels, we need a big convention center hotel, which is like at least 600 rooms or around 600 rooms. I don't have an economic impact of what that would mean, but we know that we're growing. Thank God for bourbon, by the way. And I think that there is and that's leisure tourism. That's I think it's a nice added bonus for convention business, but leisure tourism is already outpacing 2019 numbers, which we reported, which I think is really tells the story of how strong Louisville's downtown is, that we have the bones, that we just have got to get the infrastructure tight and add some more attractions that will bring people. Convention business will be back to normal, whatever that is, next year, and I'm really looking forward to it continuing to grow.
And tourism is so important. Like, nobody likes paying additional taxes right into it. But one way that we offset that is we draw that tourism in, and those monies are spent here. I remember I was maybe 2012 or 13. I sat down and I remember Danny Wimmer and they had come in and they had this idea about this festival and how it could be and the return. And now you look at the impact of nowadays, year after year into it. And if we could just emulate that over and over again, because we don't have the beaches, we don't have some of the weather, but we do have a fun, vibrant culture that we can create here. And we can do that by drawing in and incentivize. We've seen it with the film festival and some of the film incentives that we're doing with the tourism. But in order to be able to have those large tourism, they got to have places to stay.
Yep.
And they have to have a safe community in which they feel comfortable into it. And so I think that there has to be definitely an investment, and I think this revitalization should help incentivize that, because private dollars go where they believe that government has an interest.
And when I talk to people in the tourism industry, they think it's coming back in Louisville, and that's good. But one of the things they talk about is, and I want to circle back, is security. They want to make sure that they feel safe. You got to be able to walk from the Marriott to the Vat Museum and not get accosted by whatever. And you can't do that today all the time. And so, we need to make sure that our police force is morale is up and that they're doing the right things. And so to me, that's the foundational point is security and the perception thereof. And we're in the right direction. Our murder rate is down this year. Our shooting rate is down this year, but I think the murder rate is up a little bit. But that is even from the highs from COVID. 10 years ago, we had never hit 100. Now 100. We would do cartwheels if we only had 100. And so security is still a massive issue. And we talked about groceries. I mean, let's just call it straight. When you talk to retailers, they're talking about retail theft. And so we can put lipstick on the pig if we want to, but it comes down to acting right. and being safe. And that's the fundamental. And we're getting in the right direction, I think, but it's still the biggest problem we have, I believe.
I will add that while LMPD is staffing up, since we know there are about 300 officers short, LDP, Louisville Downtown Partnership, did double the number of ambassadors in downtown this year. That is in big thanks to Humana Louisville Tourism and the city for funds that helped pay for that additional 18. That's made a big difference. They do not have arrest powers, they do not carry guns, but the uniformed visibility presence of those ambassadors makes a big difference. I would like to add more. I talked to my other cities, other downtown groups, and their numbers are double, triple the number that we have. So it's not the same, but we're trying to cover our bases a little bit.
That'll make people feel safe, which is,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
And just, I'll go ahead and address, because I think it's a basis of so many of the questions, and it is the public safety, and we keep touching into it. I chaired public safety on there for a long time, pinned officers, prosecutor's office, assistant attorney general, been around it forever, criminal justice commission, all those things. And what I've learned is there's no easy fix.
No.
There's just not. But what does work is long-term investment. It's long-term, and it starts with child education. If we're number 1 through 8 of abuse and neglect year after year, those child victims, more likely than not, will be in the justice system. If we don't have a fully funded education model in the system, then those kids get left behind, and we know that they're more likely to commit crimes. If we don't have interrupters, and if we don't have, I was a youth mentor, if we don't have those things in place, then we lose more and more, and it costs us more and more. And so the problem a lot of times with us politicians is we operate in 4 and 8 year cycles. But this type of investment, when you talk about fully funding education and fully funding those things, those are long-term solutions, but that does have the biggest, realest impact on safety and justice in the criminal justice system. So we definitely want to make sure we got the best, brightest officers and they have funding. And I've been fighting for increased funding for our police officers forever, because I realize in my injury practice, I understand a lot of times if you don't pay people adequate wages, you don't get adequate individuals in there, or they're overworked, they don't feel in their job, and you have lawsuits. You have problems. So you want to make sure you have the best. I want to be able to pay the full salaries for our police officers, for our teachers, for all those things, because it's wraparound. And those things make the difference. And so every time we go about best practices, and we've been hearing this since ever. They said, here's how you do it. But we don't, because that's a really expensive investment and you don't see immediate return. But I think that if we want to move Louisville forward, we're going to have to do that. And I think everybody up here agrees. It's just something we're going to
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we try to do that. This is a statistic I think every Kentuckian should be proud of. The governor heralded it at his State of the Commonwealth. We have more treatment beds per capita in Kentucky than any other state in the country. More treatment beds per capita than any other state in the country. Man, I'm proud of that. That's long-term investment. But with long-term investment, which we need more of, no doubt about that, and we have millions and millions and millions going to that, and we should have more. You need serious and swift enforcement of misconduct. We don't have that. We don't need the judges letting people out when they've committed murder. They do that. It's not hyperbole. And so we have to take violent crime seriously. We don't. And we know that there's a very small group of people who commit violent crime. Those people need to be in jail for a long, long time. So we passed House Bill 5, the Safer Kentucky Act. I know we disagree with that. I'm not going to go into crime too much here. But we're trying to finally take crime seriously. When an adult won't do the crime, he uses kids to do it, that adult needs to be punished more harshly. That's one thing that we've done. Mm-hmm. We've tried to make reentry programs, see which ones work, because these people are going to be our neighbors, they're our loved ones, they're our family members. They're going to come back out. But yeah, we need to talk about long-term, no doubt about that, education, drug treatment, continue to talk about that. But we should also talk about those who would do us harm. They need to get out of our community, and they need to be behind bars for a long time. That's part of the mix that hasn't been for far too long.
Yes, right. If there's a criminal that wants to do you harm, and then they're convicted, we do presume innocence, and I know we have several judges in there. And so what we have talked about, and Jason and other members and some, is we're going to have to figure out to do something with our bail system, the cash bail system, the way it's set up. I've been a prosecutor. I've done defense. I remember, some of you remember some of the Explorer program and how individuals were able to post a $500,000 bond and immediately be out, right? Because if you have the money, you get out. There's a problem. And then you have someone who commits low-level offenses but can't afford a $500 bond, so they sit in jail and lose their job. we have a problem there.
Right.
So, and House Bill 5, in fact, it incorporated several bills that I had sponsored, some type of the retail.
I did that intentionally to try to get your vote. Jared Bauman fronted that for us.
And it did. It had stuff, but there was other parts that some of us just couldn't get. And we deal the way it treats the homeless, and some of the amendments that we couldn't get into it. And to me, that is obviously the homeless issue is a major issue here, and that's why the community campus is so important to invest in, to make sure they have access to resources. My brother was the director of the Salvation Army Center of Hope, and it opened my eyes more than anything I think that I've done personally, being in there and watching how you can get people into long-term treatment, how you can actually get people medication and help, and they can have a new life. But if we turn a blind eye, if we lock them up, if we put them away, then that costs taxpayers more money. And we're not a compassionate city, and ultimately, we can't be a place that we're proud of. So that's why I'm extremely excited about some of the community care campus and the investments into it and the wraparound services.
Thank you. Here's your next question. Recently, there was a article in Business First about the challenges that developers have building in Louisville. And many of them pointed to regulatory challenges made by Metro Louisville, and then also just the slowness of the entire process. What is being done to correct that situation to actually encourage, Rebecca, what you discussed, changing offices to residential buildings, for example?
So the first thing that we did, and we did this a year and a half ago, is we had gone to Dayton to visit them and talk about what their development process is and learn about Ohio's financial tools. I'm very jealous about Ohio's. I'll be talking to these two gentlemen this year about that. But we did pull together a downtown development team, which means that if you have a large development in downtown, we're going to pull all the regulatory agencies around the table at once to talk about all your needs. So fire will be with inspectors, will be with parking and signage and all the things that make up a site plan. We've met with one developer so far. This is something where you have to be far enough along that you have something to sit down with everybody to show them. But I think that is the mentality of a one-stop shop, where you're going to come in and you're going to have a case manager who will always be with you and walk you through this process. We started out that way. When the Metro Development Center was built, that was the idea. Then you've got someone from fire and MSD and the utilities in that building, and then you have the departments on each floor. I don't know why, but we fell away from that as a city, and things did get more difficult. And I think that's coming back to having that case manager and a more streamlined process, because somebody is walking you through the steps. We're starting with downtown. Doesn't mean it can't happen for any project anywhere in the city. I think it's a great model and should always happen. It's from an economic development point of view, it really does make life easier, and it makes the developer very happy when they don't have to be the ones that go from department to department, and someone changes their mind, and then they have to go to a different department and say, they changed their mind, what do you think now? And so it is happening. It's just we need some projects to be able to show that it works. This group has a charter. Jeff O'Brien did not get a chance to talk about it very much on that panel last week, so it wasn't written about. I actually did send a note to Shay Van Hoy after his story that you're talking about to say this is in place. It's just not ready for prime time, but we're working on it.
Thank you.
And I say we, I'm no longer with the city. I will always feel like I'm with the city, but I'm not technically a city employee, but we together are working on it.
Thank you.
Before I start, Senator Yates, if you could please pull your microphone a little closer to you, as we've had some people. There you go. Thank you very much.
Usually they take it away from me.
You just told a lawyer and a politician to get the mic closer.
Yeah, exactly. How can we incentivize the development of surface lots that break up the feel of an urban center in downtown Louisville?
How do we incentivize the development of it?
Yes.
Well, that's part of the request. There's got to be a little tweaking of the downtown vacant lot revitalization to also be buildings and some language in there. But that is part of it. You want that infill. We do want, we have a parking lot, and we do want, some have parking lots because you have to have parking down here. But these vacant areas, you incentivize because it encourages development. We had talked about potentially having a moratorium, and this was, I don't want to get out, but I'll pass this one off to Rebecca, who's always thinking of it, looking at best practices. And so that'll be more of a downtown issue, so I'll let you handle that one.
Okay.
But I think from my standpoint is, as I have some partners, I have a real estate business and we do it, I'm constantly meeting people, bringing them to Louisville, showing them what we have to offer, and then handing them off and saying, here's some incentives that we may have if you're willing to develop here.
Representative, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Not on that. I got something I want to add, but go ahead.
Okay. So yes, surface parking lots are kind of, in my opinion, sorry, Senator, the bane of our existence. They are not the highest and best use of land and contribute to the heat island effect, and also don't give you a solid wall for where you feel safe when you're walking by a building and activity in and out. So we definitely want to be able to incent the redevelopment of surface parking lots. It is very difficult because of the way that they are valued at the PVA. I think if they start being valued but for their value, not their use, they always get appealed by the property owner because they are not making as much. They're wanting to pay based on what their income is, not the value of the land. So they appeal, and because of the appeals board for PVA, those usually get turned over. I would like to see that change a little bit. There would have to be, to the senator's point, we do need to have some parking, but right now we've got plenty of parking, garage parking, on-street parking. Don't come to me talking about there's not enough parking in downtown as a reason not to come downtown. But what Senator Yates referred to is what I'm looking into. I'm just starting to socialize this. We do have an abatement program that's possible in Kentucky for 5 years on your property tax, which basically freezes that tax rate for 5 years. You develop it, you're only paying the same tax you've always paid on that property, and then 5 years later, you start to pay on what that new value is. All the states surrounding us have 15 or 20-year programs like that, and I would like us to match that. We are losing local developers to those states because of that, and that would be a great tool to help redevelop those surface parking lots. Number one, how they're valued. Number two, we just need more financial incentives to help redevelopment, and I think that would be a great way. But whoever question that was, I agree 100%.
What I wanted to add is I think this is, it kind of gets into the holistic approach. We've talked about the $100 million in the investment there, and we've talked about some treatment things, but we also understand that a vibrant town is the arts, it's the parks, it's all those kinds of things. And so with that in mind, we've put significant investments in the Louisville Orchestra, the Science Center. Sons of the American Revolution headquarters is right here in Louisville, Kentucky, international headquarters. Many people don't know that. It's on Main Street. So they're going to have a beautiful museum. We put an investment there. There's a new Kentucky College of Art and Design that's downtown Louisville that's doing some really nice things that we put investment there. Senator Gerald Neal was able to get $7 million for the Shawnee Park. If you've not seen those renderings, that's just absolutely gorgeous. So that's not far from here. Obviously, a significant investment in the airport, because when people come here, that's the first thing they see about us. The Botanical Gardens, the Kentucky Center for the Arts. We go on and on and on. But it wasn't just the get more people to live here, the senior living, regular other folks living. It wasn't just the Belvedere. It was also all of those things. We understand that you have to have vibrant parks and vibrant arts in order for people to want to be down here. So we're putting our money into all those kinds of things. We mentioned earlier about Louisville. I did want to note that we're approximately 17.8% of the Kentucky population, and we're approximately bringing in about between 23 and 24% of the revenues. And so I want to go back to the question of how hard was it to get people on board. We put hundreds of millions of dollars in water projects across the Commonwealth. That doesn't happen without Louisville bringing dollars to the table. So I just wanted to put that in there as a little fact that you can put in your mind. We're almost 1/5, not quite 1/5, but almost 1/5 of the population. And we almost bring in, not quite, but almost bring in one out of every $4. And so that's something significant that we're proud of. And don't think for a second I don't spew those facts all over Frankfort to make sure people understand. While I want to make sure it's not in a way of greater than or anything like that, but in a way of let's feed the engine so we can feed everybody. And also we have 155 schools. When I talk to my friends, I see James Craig over here. He's my school board member. When I talk to my friends across the Commonwealth about how we have 155 schools, they're like, do what? I mean, it's a horse of a different color, Louisville is. And so we have to educate our friends that in a way that says, this is yours, this is ours, we're here together. But I also want to understand what you're like in Greenup County and Clinton County. But in Louisville, we're big, and we need to get bigger so you can get bigger.
Thank you for that list, because one of the questions actually was, what is all that money going to go towards? So that helped answer that.
That's a short list. There's a lot more.
Yeah.
It's more than I could write down.
I got a few pages up.
That's right. That's right.
So the next question was, what's the status of redeveloping Louisville Gardens, the Stark building, with Humana and LG&E and other developments leaving? What's the plan in getting something back? What's the status of our so-called high-profile buildings?
First of all, LG&E and Humana are not leaving, period. They're moving, to be clear, and Humana, and then they both are still in downtown. Okay, we just have to be able to say that. LG&E did buy a building out in the East End. They have always had 2 locations. I don't know if anyone from LG&E is here, but they're still going to have 700 people in downtown. Humana is moving 3 blocks that way, still in downtown. They started remote work before COVID, by the way, so they have just really continued the same trend. I think we're headed toward this no matter what, and they just COVID kind of sped it up. But they are, I don't like that they're leaving their tower, but it's the same amount of people still in downtown. They're just giving up a building. That's not great news that they're giving up a building, but the great news is that we still have a building that can be reused in some way that I think that we're going to have to figure out. They're working very closely with the mayor's office. We do not know what that looks like yet. It's a special building. I think we all want to see it reused, but that is a big question mark right now. Starks is, they're going back to the square one to figure out financing. What was the first one you said? Louisville Gardens is going to be, I believe there is money in this $100 million pot, thanks to the state, that is going to help get this project over the finish line. And there is going to be sound stages and production for all of the films that are coming to Kentucky because of the state incentive that is working wonders. It's doing exactly what it was meant to do. And there is no other place for these movies to do sound production. So there will be a lot of stuff in and out of that site when that gets built. And by the way, if you want to make a TV advertisement, that's where you would go to do it. There will be stages for that kind of thing too.
And we need to incentivize more businesses to come to Louisville, not just the ones that are here to stay and grow. And we're doing that by these types of things that we're discussing. We're also doing that by reducing income tax. Now, I know a lot of people don't like that, but I think it's a good play. When you look at the states that are growing, they have a lower income tax than we do. And people in Louisville should be standing up and fighting like heck for reducing the income tax because it helps us more than it helps everybody else. Because we always talk about we send our money to Frankfort, we don't get it back. Well, let's not send it to Frankfort. Let's keep it in mom and pop's pocket. Let's keep it in our business's pocket. And so when we do that, we've reduced our income tax from 6% to 4%, going down to even more. That helps all of Kentucky, but it helps Louisville in a unique way. And so I think Louisville, it's a message that's not been received in Louisville for whatever reason. I think politics, but for whatever reason, it is a very good thing for Louisville that we're reducing our income tax. Another reason it's really good is because if I'm a site selector, I'm the one who's making the decision on where my business is going to go. I'm thinking about myself too. I'm also thinking about my employees and what the arts and everything else. And if I'm not going to have to pay as many taxes, well, that may go up the list a little bit higher. Also want to think about the school system. And, we're losing a lot of people, a lot of these decision makers to Odom, Shelby, and even Bullitt County now. We need to continuously improve our school system to keep those families right here. I represent Odom and Shelby County as well, a little bit of Shelby County, a lot of Odom County. And 30 to 40% of the people I represent in Odom and Shelby, they're Louisvillians who got the heck out of Dodge because of taxes in the school district. So all of these things are weaved together. All of these things are what's going to make Louisville revitalize.
And I think she did talk about the incentive, the tax credit for the film is up to $75 million of investment. I mean, we were back, and again, this was when I was working with Rebecca. It was 2000. It was before I was president. It was 2014 that we put it out for RFP. Just do something with Louisville Gardens. It had to be done. And they came back in 2016 and said, no, you need all this abatement. All these things have to be done. And it's going to cost so much money. And it's set. And then, so when the state came through and we did the different refundable tax credits, all of a sudden then people are interested. And then you see in 2002 it started coming forward, and now we're here. So it does work in those incentives. And then I do think that there's some draw of having, the cost of living being low here, and then our tax policy. What I worry about is I don't like to pay taxes. We talked about looking at other ways, but what I don't want to do is simply reduce one income tax and at the same time increase other taxes. when you're looking over here. And that, so, because I think sometimes we can see a lot of ill effects of having a not a diverse tax policy or overly regressive policy. So I think it's nothing, it's hard to sit down on a forum and debate every situation, but I think I like that we put certain things in place, the trigger mechanisms, that it only went down if we hit a certain threshold. We have to watch how we play those games, though, because sometimes what we'll do in the budget is say, all right, well, we're not going to count that spending, we're not going to do this, and we can kind of move the numbers around.
Which we haven't done yet, by the way.
Yeah, that's in 2025.
That's a threat, but we haven't done that. And I would also note that we have, with respect to the taxing, and this is something I think all of us agree with, we need more options in taxing. Right now, the working man and woman who owns a home is getting soaked in taxes. And that's all we can do. That's all the city can do. Property taxes and income and occupational taxes. Well, we need more of a diversity. When people come here for the tourism, they need to be paying sales tax. And so we need to have an option. I know that the former mayor, the current mayor, the mayor for life, Jerry Abramson, everybody is for this. And that is that they'll take a constitutional amendment, which would enable our town to have a different options, I guess, for taxing. So it's not just property and occupational. It can also be sales taxes and other things like that. So we'd have to amend the Constitution for that. We've passed it in the House. David, you guys haven't passed it in the Senate yet to put on the ballot, but we need more options. So what that would do is obviously it would hopefully would reduce taxes on the working mom and dad who owns property and spread it out to everybody.
And we have looked, I mean, that's something we talked about, heck, for years and years, local sales option tax, different things in place. What the worry would be is we want to make sure we're protected, that it's not completely just offset in Frankfort.
That's right.
Yeah, and so what I don't want to do is we would all come in, because I think as long as we know if it's directed towards certain incentives, it has a sunset, we understand that, I think people get behind it. My worry is that if we do that, I don't want in Frankfort to say, well, you have the money for that, we're going to keep these tax dollars. So it has to be something in place there. But absolutely, we watch the cities that are passing us by. Mm-hmm. Most of them have that ability to do that, to be able to leverage local money and then reinvest it back in the community. And I think as long as our constituents understood what the money's being used for, they knew it wasn't going to be offset in there, and that there was some sunset, and they got the opportunity to pick a next project one after another, I think most people would be for that.
And downtown would definitely benefit from that new tool for projects that would be
Yeah.
funded in that way.
That's right. So we're reducing income tax, but I also want to note that about the states around us. You know, Tennessee's sales tax is still 9%. Ours is at 6%. That will not go up. And I think they tax groceries in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And so we do a lot of things right in Kentucky. We do not tax groceries, we do not tax pharmaceuticals or healthcare. But we do, we keep our sales tax down at 6%. We're also trying to bring the income tax down in a very slow way. So we're trying to get tax policy right, but get back to the question, and that is we have to attract a major employer here in Louisville.
Plural.
Yep.
Well, I think that's all we have time for today. I really want to thank our three speakers, please. Thank you. And as I said in the beginning, I don't think this is the last time we're going to have a talk about downtown Louisville. So thank you all, and I will see you, everyone. Thank you for coming. We'll see you in July.